How's it going, everybody? And welcome to another episode of the Barely There podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Barely There Pod. I'm Duke Coughlin. You can follow me on Twitter at that pod guy Duke. As always, I'm joined by the Ayatollah of Capicola, Lucas Perfetti. You can follow him on Twitter at Lucas Perfetti46. We are previewing the Chicago Bears versus the New York Giants. And let me tell you, these are not the typical New York Giants teams that we've seen in the past. They have a new head coach in Brian Daboll. Bears fans should be very, very familiar with him. He was a pretty hot name when it came to the head coaching search this past offseason. And they got him playing a little bit different. New York just lost kind of a heartbreaker against Dallas. I'm not going to sit here and say they're a scary team per se, but it's a team you have to take very seriously. Otherwise, they will sneak one in on you. Daboll definitely has Danny Dimes playing a little bit better than he has in the past. But Lucas, we have the spread right now for the Chicago Bears is +3. The money line is +135, and the over under is 39 flat. So how are you feeling, buddy? How are you feeling about what the Giants are doing against our defense? How are you feeling about this money line, and how are we feeling about it?
I mean, obviously I'm hammering the Bears money line, but that's just because I'm an asshole. But realistically, I think we're going to talk about why we think the Giants are a little overrated and why the Bears are going to win overall. Like I said last week, a 3-point spread on a home, like for a home team, is essentially a pick 'em. They're essentially saying like, hey, we give you a field goal for being at home. That's your advantage. So I mean, realistically, I think Vegas sees it as these teams are pretty fucking even. Two brand new head coaches, two new cultures, two new systems. I do think the under, or I do think the over is definitely what I would hit if I had to pick. I think it's kind of a dummy line, realistically, like 39. I think it opened at 38.5, so people are probably trending towards over, but I don't think the Giants and Bears run defense is overly good. And I also don't think that I don't know. I just both teams can put up some points. The best defense the Chicago Bears have probably faced is the Packers or the 49ers. They were able to put up like 23 against the 49ers. I mean, although there's a lack of a passing game, like the Bears are still scoring points, more points than they did in the Matt Nagy era. So we're seeing people get into the end zone. It's just not through the air. So I definitely like the over in that. I think it can, I mean, I just don't, I think that's a really, really, really low under. So like a gambler would pick the under because they're like, wow, that's so low. I have to take the under, but I don't know. I'm leaning over for sure. So definitely I like the Bears with the 3 points and the over, but this could be one of those games where the Bears have to score more. So it's a tentative feeling towards this. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, do the Giants scare me? No, I think they're a little bit overrated. I think they have a name like Saquon Barkley, so people are talking about it. They have an offensive head coach and had a couple cupcake matchups, in my opinion, in their first 2 weeks. So that's my feel for it. Dallas was able to get after him. I just don't think the Giants are that good. So I would take the Bears +3.
Well, I also think with this over under, just personally speaking from the outside looking in, for me, obviously, because I live in a wonderful state that doesn't allow sports betting, so I can't be a degenerate all the time, which is very unfortunate, by the way. I think you look at the fact that we scored 24 last week and Houston scored 20. You know what I mean? That's 44 right there. And I would dare say the Giants offense has looked better early on than say the Houston Texans. So the over is potentially something there that I would take a look at if I was a betting man. Just because I feel like these are two teams that can definitely score, especially with like that you highlighted on the run defense, because we're currently allowing 157 on the ground, and New York's currently allowing 138.3. That's a nice chunk of change right there to be allowing on the ground. And when you have Saquon Barkley and a guy like Khalil Herbert, who ended up winning the FedEx Ground Player of the Week, that really bodes well for running offenses. And this could be one of those situations where it becomes a ball control type game, because you look at what the Dallas Cowboys did against the Giants, especially on defense, with being able to get to Daniel Jones. I feel like we have some pretty good pass rushers on our defense in our own right. And I think a guy like Robert Quinn, who is a proven commodity, a proven edge rusher, can really wreak some havoc in their pass game. So this could very much be the Saquon Barkley versus Khalil Herbert game.
I
obviously.
think Field Yates gave him the kiss of death, though. Field Yates put out a tweet that was like, Saquon Barkley facing the Bears defense is going to have like 3 touchdowns and 275 yards and like some crazy game. And I was like, oh, I think he's going to have like 35 yards now. Don't forget now, Saquon Barkley, not that I'm happy about it, but he's got some unfinished business with the Bears because when he tore his ACL initially, that started kind of his downward spiral. That was against the Chicago Bears. So, I think he's going to come out pretty fucking intense. But I think Field Yates gave him the kiss of death. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're okay, man. Honestly, dude, and I always think back to that game. That was the 2020 game, I believe, right? That
Mm-hmm.
was, yep. He was actually, I'm pretty sure he was getting into a pretty nice rhythm against this as well. But I think that's like the difference you see with like a Brian Daboll compared to what the Giants have been doing on offense the last few years is he's a guy who like everybody thought was going to come in and be like, we're going to air it out, because you look at what the Bills offense did last year. And I think he's just a really good offensive mind and he knows what he has in Saquon Barkley. So he's going to find ways to get him the football. It's not one of these situations where, oh, Saquon doesn't fit into my offense. Like I'm not going to use him or I'm going to use him like only when I absolutely need to. It's like, no, this is probably the most talented guy on our entire offense. We're going to get the ball in his hand, whether we're handing it off, whether we're throwing it to him out of the backfield. Like we're going to have him try to beat you. And I think that's something we have to be very aware of. This isn't going to be the typical situation where this offense is trying to force what they want to run, kind of a la Matt Nagy, because there are other offense coordinators out there. And I think you see that with the Bills with Ken Dorsey, ironically, Brian Daboll's replacement. But it's going to be, they're going to take what we give them. It's going to be a lot of that. They're going to take advantage of any sort of matchup that we give them. And that's something we have to be very, very aware of on defense. That's why I feel like getting to Daniel Jones is going to be really important early on and being able to really lock it up on the interior, like a guy like Justin Jones, who Jeff Joniak actually called out to be his player of the week this upcoming week because he's going to have a tall task. It's going to be a lot of Justin Jones trying to stop that interior pressure from the offensive line to really be able to kind of make Saquon Barkley think twice about running inside.
Yeah. Justin Jones, huh? It's funny you mentioned him because I feel like he had a decent preseason, but I haven't seen too much of him. I feel like Blackson has been making more splash plays on the interior. I don't know. I digress. But no, I think you're 100% right. And to be honest about Brian Daboll, like I did a lot of research into him because he was my favorite candidate for the Chicago Bears head coaching job. I mean, he looks like he would just eat a fucking Italian beef and just have like jardinere juice and au jus running down his fucking arm, like not even using a napkin, trying to lick his elbow and shit. Like that's what he reminded me of, just pure cock and balls football guy. So I was a big fan of Brian Daboll, and I'm surprised the Bears didn't give him at least a finalist interview or whatever, make him a finalist. But I do love Flus, and that's not to take away from Flus. I've grown to love him. Flus wasn't my top candidate. Brian Daboll was. And people forget, like, he was the OC of the Peyton Hillis fucking Browns. He was the OC in Casey when they had Jamal Charles and Thomas Jones. Like, I believe so. There was some years there where like he was not known for his passing game, and everyone said like, oh, he can only run an offense because of Josh Allen and because of Josh Allen's development, giving him zero credit for the development himself or putting the pieces in place, with him in the front office to make Josh Allen comfortable, the right kind of fit, putting him in the right system, the right situation to make Josh Allen thrive, right? No one gave him credit for that. But I was like, man, this is the first elite quarterback he had, and he built an offense around him, a dual threat quarterback that could run the fucking rock, like a running back. And I don't know. I think he's a great coach. I do think they're a little bit limited, but because of what he is as an offensive mind, I think they're going to find a way to put points on the board, and the Bears are going to have to do the same in order to win this game.
Well, yeah, and on the fact that they're limited also, and I don't want to totally get into the injury report quite yet, but Sterling Shepard going down in the game on Monday is a huge blow to their offense, and a guy like Kadarius Toney is also somebody who's going to be questionable heading into this one. So they're really probably going to commit to running the football, and I like the points that you brought up about Daboll. Being able to commit to whatever offensive talents on his team, and that's what he did with the Bills. And I really think you see that with what Ken Dorsey is doing with the Bills currently. as their offensive coordinator, and they're a team that's just having such a hard time running the football. And that's something that Brian Daboll used to get really creative of, getting the ball in the running back's hands in other ways outside of just handing it off to him. So he's a really good offensive mind, I guess, is what I'm trying to gather here. Like, he's a guy that you have to be able to, you can't just hit base defense on this guy at certain points in the game. You have to really stay creative. You have to keep him on his toes, because he's a guy who is very honed into the game. As we've seen, he's had no problem telling Danny Dimes when he's fucked up. He's really laid into Daniel Jones a couple times on the sideline. It's actually pretty entertaining to watch. So he's a really intense guy. He's a guy who's really honed in. He's not somebody who's going to like lose track of what's happening within an offensive drive. And I think that's going to be a real test for Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams, And ironically, I just got to bring this up because I made a tweet about it earlier. When Brian was with the Browns, he actually shared a coaching room with the linebacker coach by the name of Matt Eberflus. So it's kind of a cool, what's the word I'm looking for? It all comes around.
Full cycle. Yeah.
Comes full cycle. That's exactly
full circle, whatever the fuck you gotta say.
No, it comes full circle. These guys were probably sharing like leftover fucking turkey in the Browns coaching room at 3 a.m, and now they're both head coaches of NFL teams. It's kind of cool to see. And I would imagine that they have,
and they're both like similar in terms of they were very overqualified and were long overdue for their opportunity.
Yeah, well, and like I that's like what the point you made about like Matt Eberflus not being like your first candidate or anything like that. Like, if anybody was honestly saying that Matt Eberflus is their first candidate, they're lying, because like it threw all of us for a loop. I don't think anybody really quite saw it coming. I think the only connection,
I saw a couple perverts out there, but yeah.
I mean, the only real connection that I saw right off the bat was when we hired Ryan Poles, because there's that direct connection between Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Which, how's it going, Spag? It's good to see you in the show, bud. But I mean, it's a situation where it's working out pretty well for both teams, I feel like. I mean, it's still early, but Daboll's was a much needed culture change. He has a winning culture behind him. He's, coached at fucking Alabama. He's coached at Buffalo, which Buffalo was really close to making the Super Bowl last year. And, you have Matt Eberflus, who is obviously turned this team that nobody thought was going to be anything this year and is making him respectable at the very least, But I guess kind of moving into more specifics, what on offense do you think, Lucas? And I'll kind of let you take the run here, and I'll chime in as you go. But what do you think on offense that we need to do schematically, outside of just player performances, that we should do against the New York Giants? Almost said San Francisco Giants. What should we do against the New York Giants to really expose some of their weaknesses on defense?
Well, I mean, first things first, honestly, I think this is not the game to be running on 3rd and 6. They've allowed 10 first downs by penalty, I believe. Or maybe they've allowed 7 first downs by penalty. So you got to think like that's not great in 3 games. So I definitely think this is the type of game that, I mean, I called it before. I think this is the defensive backfield that you can expose. I don't think they have a great pass rush. I think this is a game where, like those first 2 games, you were getting dominated at the line of scrimmage on pass pro. And even last week, we thought that there were some dogs on that defensive line. Thibodeau's out, if I'm not mistaken, right? He got like seriously injured at the beginning of the year, or is he playing now?
No, he was actually playing. I think he was on a snap count on Monday night, but he is probably going to be playing full go by the time we play him. So
either way, I'm not super impressed by their pass rush, by their linebackers, I mean, fuck, dude. There was a couple years ago where they had like a decent defensive backfield, but I think it's deteriorated a little bit. So I think this is the team where I know you can expose them on the ground because they have been exposed on the ground. But I also think this is a game to get Justin Fields comfortable. I think you're going to be able to do that. I don't know, man. We were talking about it before the game, but they're just stay. Like, if you're going to do a drive, obviously you got to switch out personnel and shit like that for certain packages. But like, at some point, with that power set where you have like essentially a power eye set up with Kari Blasingame in the game, you're getting like 9 yards of carry on that. So why not just have him run play action out of that with only a 2-person route and two running backs in the flats, and you have Komet and 1 receiver go out. Like, let's get some plays like that going that look similar, where it's not as much of a tell from Luke Getsy. That's my first and foremost thing. I think Justin Fields is gonna, and like I said, while I know the Bears defense has been really clutch in spots, I don't think that they're as good as we anticipated them to be. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but with Roquan playing more downhill, they definitely, they look good in some aspects, but you got a lot of guys that are still adjusting. I know last week we had Jalen Johnson out. But yeah, offensively, I just feel like they're going to score some points against us, and we're going to have to do the same. And I'd rather get Justin Fields comfortable early if it comes to hey, we're going to have to score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter type game because we're going back and forth. I think it has that potential, right? There's always the possibility of the Bears absolutely fucking just running the rock every single play because Justin Fields is struggling, but I'm going to have a little bit of hope that he's going to be able to expose some of those areas in the middle of the field again. And then on the corners too, man. If anyone's manned up, like, not that the Bears have incredible receivers, but who is their standout corner? Who do you really feel that Darnell Mooney cannot beat in one-on-one? They've been doing things to try to take away Darnell Mooney in the past weeks, and if they want to double cover him, Velus Jones looks like he's on track to be back. Maybe we get him the ball in space. Equinemius St. Brown has been a pleasant surprise. I just feel like they don't have the types of corners that are going to be able to consistently cover our guys one-on-one. So, yeah, I think throwing the ball is actually going to be the key to winning this game. If Justin Fields comes out confidently and has a swagger back, because that's something we need to see as well.
Yeah, and I watched the Monday night game, and I guess the biggest thing that I took away from it is the fact that, I don't want to take anything away from the guy, but the fact that Cooper Rush was finding a way to move out of the pocket, maneuver the pocket against the New York Giants, a guy who's, come on, dude, he's been popping around practice squads and sitting him at as the backup and stuff like that.
He looked good in both of his games.
Yeah,
I will say that.
He's all right. I've watched
a game manager.
He's definitely that guy you want as a backup. I thought Michael Irvin, when he was going on his little rant on Twitter, did a really good idea of it. Is trust the rush as a backup. But I really saw a lot of what they did. Being able to run the football on the inside, being able to kind of maneuver Tony Pollard to get off tackle. They were kind of doing what they wanted up front. And honestly, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line isn't anything special. I don't think it's really any better than us. We just don't have that offensive lineman that compares to a Zach Martin. But besides that, it's very comparable to what we're doing. They had Jason Peters starting at left guard, which
nothing old and mattered at this point. Yeah.
Very. And they have a very young left tackle, which sounds very familiar to us. So I mean, they were really able to avoid the pass rush quite a bit. And I guess, and this is something we've talked about the last few weeks, but it's something that really looked like it was working against the Giants, were flood and crossing concepts, man. Being able to get CeeDee Lamb on the crossing route into the, outside of the hash was something that was really there. Obviously CeeDee Lamb had a horrendous drop that
ruined my parlay too. That absolutely ruined it.
It didn't ruin our boys. It didn't ruin our boys. He still hit money, but yeah,
I had a Tony Pollard prop too. Tony Pollard prop to get 60 yards was fucking plus 350 or something crazy. He hit it on his third rush. It was incredible.
Yeah, no, that's insane. But that's definitely the concept that I saw working the most for him. Obviously Dallas doesn't go into their tight end too often because their starting tight end was out, but I think that's also something that could be exposed. I'm looking at the linebackers they have on the roster, and Mikey McFadden, solid player, but that's not somebody who really strikes fear in me, especially in the secondary. I think Julian Love, outside of their entire secondary, is probably their best piece that they have. I'm with
Nazareth Academy product, Illinois local.
Oh yeah, baby.
Went to Notre Dame too, right?
What's that?
Did you go to Notre Dame too?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, honestly. Yeah, he did. Good call. But I would say their corners really don't instill fear in me. And that's something where we can really expose, if they were to go into a zone, or they play a decent amount of man coverage as well, which is where those crossing routes work. And that's I think of a guy like Darnell Mooney to really be able to expose something like that. Obviously he doesn't have the size of a CeeDee Lamb, but being able to kind of maneuver the intermediate of the field is something that they both do really well. And that's something that I feel like we should really, really focus on when we're doing our offensive game plan this week. And finding a way to get Cole Kmet the football, obviously. Like I said, Julian Love is the biggest threat I see in this secondary. Xavier McKinney's an okay safety. He's not anybody that really instills fear in me either. There's something to be exposed here, and they don't necessarily have the greatest pass rush in the world. I feel like if you can lock down what Thibodeau does on the outside edge, I think you're in business per se. I think if a guy like Leonard Williams ends up playing, which I feel like is probably their best defender, honestly, if we're being 100% honest, you're going to want to move that pocket a little bit because he's going to be wreaking havoc on the inside. That's their, to keep it simple for Bears fans who might not know a lot about what Leonard Williams does, he's their Akeem Hicks. He kind of is that guy that wreaks havoc in the middle and just kind of goes through fucking, double teams. So that's somebody that we're going to have to really pay attention to, especially in the pass game and in the run game as well. I'd like to see us get really, I'd like to see a lot of blasting game in the game if we're going to be running it interior. So there is definitely a lot of spots to expose this defense. This is the rebuilding part of their team. Overall, this team's kind of a mess. Brian Daboll kind of walked into a badly managed football team. Like if we're looking at like the past fucking almost 10 years at this point. But I mean, this is something that we need to be able to take advantage of. We need to be able to have these confidence games on offense against defenses like this, especially with where we are with our passing game. This has to be a game where Justin Fields hits his first read. Give him some easy plays to get him going. You know what I mean? And I'm not usually into the whole like you have to scale something back for a quarterback, but like just make it a little bit easy for him early on to get him going. And then maybe if you get in a rhythm, that's when you start going to your multiple reads. That's where you start going into the deep developing plays downfield, and that's where he makes his money.
Yeah, and to be honest, dude, I watched a good portion of that because that was prime time, wasn't it? It was a Monday night game.
Yeah, it was Monday
That
night.
that Cowboys Giants game. Like, I mean, deep crossers were all night long. They were killing him with these long developing routes. And Cooper Rush was not under duress. Like he was whacking his pud back there. So I do think this is an opportunity to get him feeling comfortable while he's trying to develop his quick game a bit. But then again, like defenses have been kind of playing us for that big shot play. And they're like, hey, you know what? You can run the ball for 20 yards a clip, or you can do this, or you can try, screen passes, but we want you to beat us on those quick reads. We're going to keep everything back. They've been really playing us back. And I think that's because they know like Justin Fields' number one ability is hitting fucking play. And even the defensive linemen too, right? Like they're not playing honest. They're just playing their lanes. They're sprinting up the field. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these rollouts get fucked up. And I think that's like they're trying to take away his best part of his game and make him figure it out. Now, it could be good for his long-term development because, hey, I'm not able to do this anymore. I've got to figure something else out to have success. And then it will teach the defenses to start playing him honestly. And now you're going to have a lot more balance in the offense in general. And I think this is a good team to try to take that step forward. So that's why, like, unless for some reason the rails fall off and it's a fucking clencher where Flus is just like biting fucking Getsy's head, being like run for 4 yards of carry. I think we should be able to see a little bit more throwing. I hope to God, right? And not a schematic thing, but just an offensive strategy thing. Luke Getsy, Matt Eberflus, whoever makes this decision, I don't give a fuck at this point because we made it very clear. We think Tevin Jenkins is the best offensive lineman on the offensive line right now. He has made the most plus plays, in my opinion. But if you decide that Lucas Patrick is better fit for that role and Sam Mustipher is better fit for center, then keep Sam Mustipher and Lucas Patrick in for 100% of the snaps. I do not want to see an offense that's JV football type shit. Don't want to see it, dude. I know that our preference is having Lucas Patrick play the position that he came in to play, which is center, and Tevin Jenkins taking that right guard spot. But I just don't want to see the rotation, man. It's actually to the point where it's fucking infuriating. It doesn't make any sense at all at this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially, and we highlighted on it in the post game, like especially with how like mediocre of a game, even fucking borderline terrible of a game that Lucas Patrick had last week. Like it's hard to say that any offensive lineman had a bad week last week, but like you could see Lucas Patrick getting blown up at the point of attack often. And that's just something like you just don't want to see from your right guard. That's one thing if you're getting that at center, because I feel like a guy like Lucas Patrick has good enough footwork to be able to adjust on something like that. Whereas Sam Mustipher is on fucking roller skates the entire game. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Lucas. Like they need to be able to like just commit to what they're doing up there. And honestly, like if you don't want Tevin at right guard, do you maybe try considering like working him in the right tackle a little bit at practice, maybe seeing what he can do over there, because Larry Borom hasn't necessarily been setting the world on fire
Be
either.
getting his shit racked.
And like you can't just deny, like I don't know if it's like a hustle thing, but like Eberflus's comments about it were a little strange, but I'm trying not to take that too into account about like how Tevin needs to show more on Wednesdays and Thursdays or whatever. But like you can't deny that he's just been the best offensive lineman whenever he's been on the field. So like if you want Lucas Patrick at right guard and you want Sam Mustipher at center, you should probably start giving Tevin Jenkins a shot at right tackle, because that's the other weak spot on this offensive line. Unfortunately, Tevin Jenkins can't snap footballs. You know,
I was gonna say, yeah, I fucking wish.
but like, I mean,
I've had that thought cross my mind multiple times.
I have too, and I've had to like talk myself out of it. It's like, no, don't be a fucking meatball. Just don't, because you bring that up and everybody's gonna be like, oh, he's never snapped in his life. And it's like, well, I mean, sometimes Sam Mustipher again snapped two footballs directly up his keister last week.
Own taint, dude.
Like, dude,
just
everybody,
absolutely.
He's so lucky that the butt punt happened. Otherwise, this would be more of a story. But it just has fallen completely under the rails because the Dolphins just decided to make life easier for him.
Now, do you think Mustipher has a sticky taint, and that's why Justin Fields having trouble letting go of the ball? Because that was the first snap of the game. So you think it possibly got a little sticky, and now he was having trouble letting go?
I don't know, man. I'm hoping like Sam Mustipher doesn't go like the approach of like I don't shower for 3 days to like affect my opponents or something like that. But like it's affecting everybody. I mean, there's people in the locker room that are just complaining about the stench coming from his ass, and I don't know if it's just gaping because of the football that he just keeps snapping up. Like something's got to hit. But yeah, no, just to bring the whole fucking point home, like just if you want Lucas Patrick to be your starting right guard, just make him your starting right guard and give Tevin Jenkins a shot at right tackle. I'm not saying you start him. Obviously, Larry Borum's the starter at right tackle right now, but like give him some snaps in practice. What the hell can it hurt at this point if you're not going to be starting him at right guard? And
if you can't rotate right tackles in practice, then you shouldn't be rotating right guards in a fucking live NFL game.
Thank you. And like
that's all.
Yeah, it really comes down to that. And if we're gonna attempt to play like a guy like Alex Leatherwood at right tackle, like I don't understand why you can't give fucking Tevin Jenkins a right tackle opportunity.
Yeah, it is kind of the whole situation of everything that's happened with Tevin Jenkins has been a bit mind-boggling, to be honest. Like he's on the trade block. No, he's not on the trade block. We like him. Okay, he's earned his spot. Okay, well, surprise, surprise, Lucas Patrick is rotating with fucking Tevin Jenkins. Like. They and that's what I not say this a couple weeks ago? Like, hey, with the club on his hand, you can justify it, but when the club comes off, you're not going to be able to fucking justify it. You can't.
Yeah, no, you can't. You literally can't. Like and honestly, like you could barely fucking justify it when the club was on his hand, because it's like, well, why the fuck are you trying to play him injured? Like, imagine if we didn't play Lucas Patrick. I'm sure like his hand would have gotten hit a lot less than it did those first few weeks, and he'd probably be snapping footballs like a fucking breeze right now. I don't know what his snaps look like because I'm not at practice. And obviously the Bears are very guarded on things like that. Matt Eberflus is pretty guarded on injuries, but something's got to give. You know, you have to have your best players out there. And it makes you wonder. And I like if this is my tinfoil hat fucking theory of the week, like it makes you wonder if our GM, who just happened to be an offensive lineman, who just has happened to have a little bit of beef between him and Tevin Jenkins, is having any sort of say-so in this entire situation. I don't want to think that way. It would make me kind of worry about Matt Eberflus a little bit, to be able to allow his GM to kind of have that type of power on day-to-day operations when it comes to the actual football team. But I mean, I feel like if you wanted to make a real conspiracy of something, there's something there, you know?
It's not a straightforward it's not a black and white situation. There's definitely a fucking gray area. I don't know if I'd go as far as you. I still think like they just don't like him that much personally, and they're trying like because it doesn't make sense. I would understand if he just wasn't playing well, but that's not the case. He's
like and like every metric is saying he's playing well. This isn't just us just beating our hogs about it as Bears fans. Like,
what's his PFF?
Next gen stats. We're seeing, as much as I hate to cite them, PFF, like you're seeing a lot of different fucking areas really raving about Tevin Jenkins. And it's like, okay, well then there's got to be something here. There's got to be some meat in the fucking sandwich. But Anyway, I mean, I think this is a good point to kind of like move into the injury report because we were talking about how Matt Eberflus is a little hesitant to give much at the podium when it comes to this. That's how it was early on. It doesn't seem like that's going to seem to change, but we do have some pretty significant names on here, and potentially a guy who could be returned from injury that I know Lucas is going to be really fucking excited about. But yeah, just going down the list here, Matthew Adams, he missed last week with a hamstring injury. He's still not going to be playing this, or it looks like he's still not playing this week. He has not participated in practice so far. Dane Croshank, same story, same injury, has not practiced this week. It looks like they tried getting Ryan Griffin going with the Achilles on Wednesday, but they shut him down today, which I'm not quite sure what
I
that
wonder if
means.
I wonder if that's a thing though, because they've done that with Velas now. They've done it or with Velas now. Like they've done it with a few guys. I wonder if that's their part of their plan. We're gonna see what they're doing on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever Tuesday, and then shut them down the second day and see if they're able to go the third day. Like I wonder if that's part of them bringing the player back. Because it just seems weird that they've had so many guys go on the first practice and then be limited first practice, not participating second. I don't know.
No, it's a really normal trend, honestly, from just looking at this injury report every week. Like, and I don't know. It's really hard to gauge. You would think that that's the idea. You would hope that maybe it's not like someone re-aggravating it, but it seems like anytime somebody hasn't practiced in a while, they're probably going to him and be like, "Hey, man, why don't you just try to go on a limited sense here today? Just put some shorts on. Don't go full pads. Just try to run around, see how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling good, we shut you down." And then, even moving on here, the big one, obviously, from last week is Jalen Johnson has not participated yet with his quad injury. This has been something they've really been really quiet on. It's kind of concerning at this point. Like I said, Eberflus is staying quiet on all of this, but still, he usually like kind of sprinkles in some updates if you ask the right questions. And we just have not heard anything on Jalen Johnson, so that's definitely going to be something to watch because that is our unquestioned number one corner at this point. At this point in our development cycle. And then Lucas, this one's going to get you a little excited, man. Velus Jones has practiced 2 days in a row. It has been on a limited participation scale, but it's a step in the right direction for a team that's really, really desperate for wide receiver 3 right now, if we're being totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, this is from a lap. If Velas plays, I think they do a bunch of short passes and screens and get the ball in his hands in open spaces. I think if he wasn't coming back from a hamstring injury, I think that would be plausible. But I think they're going to kind of put him on a snap count there, even still, because they don't want to lose him for another few weeks. But I mean, he has to start this week if you think about it logically. Otherwise, they should have put him on IR and kept the spot open for someone else. So if he doesn't play this week, now you're looking at a mismanaged situation. I know they're optimistic about getting him out there and they need wide receiver help, but I mean, fuck, man, we need him to play, dude. I need to see this guy return a fucking punt at least. Like, just bring him in. I need Velas. I need more Velas, like the cowbell.
Yeah, man, 100%. One thing I've really been kind of thinking about with Velus, just kind of imagining his role in this offense. And I don't want to necessarily get too cute with how we use him, but just kind of given the Green Bay kind of endorsement in our offense with Luke Getsy, I wonder because he's a bigger sized wide receiver. He's not like huge by any stance, but for his body size, he's a nicely built fucking dude.
What are you
Do you
thinking, Ty
think
Montgomery?
maybe not necessarily Ty Montgomery, but even like using like how they use Randall Cobb every once in a while out of the backfield, kind of back in the day. I guess I could see a Ty Montgomery, but I wouldn't see us going to him like directly running as often, but him definitely being a threat out of the backfield just as a receiver to maybe even set something up downfield as a decoy. I think it's a decent plan if they were to try to mess around with that.
See, I don't hate it, but I see it more. I would like to see him in a Percy Harvin role. That's what I would like to see Velus Jones used as. Is like the original fucking do it all.
Well,
Percy Harvin, Tavon Austin type role. Like I definitely think what did Velus say? He said I think they asked him about if he was getting Equanimous St. Brown's end around that he got like 60 yards on.
I was
He was
just
like,
about
that's
to
a
bring
house
that up.
call. Yeah, like I think they're gonna have to utilize him in those kind of ways. Because it makes too much sense. He's built like a fucking truck, dude. He's 6 foot, 210 pounds and runs like a goddamn horse. Like there's no reason not to be using him for your end arounds. And I think it's going to be a really nice wrinkle too, because if he's able to really break some plays early, and make some big plays, now they're going to be able to use that jet motion for everything else. So they're going to be able to put him into motion screen games. They're going to be able to put, and it's going to put Fields into a way better position, because now you're going to get tells from the defense every time he goes into motion. So I think they're going to use him as that piece that they move around. Almost like they're what would you call it? Their Z receiver. I think they would kind of put him in that Z spot and let him be their motion guy. Let him be the guy that, hey, we're going to do a lot of window dressing with him, and maybe he gets limited opportunities, but when he does, it could cut you really fucking deep. So you're gonna have to stay there and respect it. I think that's gonna help with the fucking run game. I mean, you're talking about like traps coming off of motion where the defensive end's already taken himself out of the play, and you're going to have multiple guys getting up to the next level. Like I could see it being extremely explosive having just an athlete like that around.
Well, and I could also see him being used, like say in like late game situations when you're trying to take shots downfield, as even being lined up on the outside, because we did see quite a bit of that during camp of Velus being moved to the outside, and that's something that we didn't necessarily think he was going to be used, that role that he was going to be used in too much. But there's just a lot of different ways you can use him, and I think that forces a defensive coordinator to kind of have to prepare for that. I also think, while we have complained about the screens, because like it's been very easy to, because the screen calls just have not been great and they just haven't been executed. But I've never really thought that's been Darnell Mooney's game. Like as much as he is like that speedster, catch it and run type guy, like I always thought like crossing routes or just getting a little bit more to the intermediate or deep routes is way more Darnell Mooney's game. And I think that opens Velus up to be able to do something like that, where Darnell can just kind of focus on doing normal wide receiver one type
just
route.
running straight routes. Yeah, I think that's a great point, honestly, because I do think while Mooney does have some value in the screen game, I think his value is so much more as a route runner.
He holds too much focus. That's the problem, because with a screen, you have to be able to kind of hit him in the mouth where they're not expecting it. And when you're throwing a screen to Darnell Mooney, like there's already so much damn focus on him on every single play that they're going to read that every time.
And realistically, this could open up the screen game for fucking Darnell Mooney, because if the defensive line starts getting through too early, what's their initial reaction? Stop. Like it's not that easy. So they might start flowing towards Velus, and if you pop a screen to the other side of the field, now you might have less pursuit on Mooney as well. So yeah, I think it's just going to add more balance overall. Please be a third round receiver, man. I've built you up to go to the Hall of Fame already, so please.
I mean, we have very actively taken pot shots at a future Hall of Fame wide receiver in favor of Velus Jones. So I mean, it's been we really kind of need this guy to pan out just for our
this guy to be
credentials,
fucking incredible, yeah.
Because it's not looking too fucking hot for us otherwise.
Yes, Alap comes up with a great point, though. I'd love to see a tight end screen to Komet. Even Nagy did that against the Cowboys with JP Holtz, and we saw that in the preseason. Like, get for screen games. Let's see the ball get into big players' hands. Someone that can fucking drag a pile with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm all about getting creative with just getting guys like Cole Kmet or any tight end involved at this point, because the biggest thing that I saw last year with that really helped Justin Fields and really just helped the offense as a whole was having Cole Kmet as that safety blanket. Before if everything else is covered, you have Cole Kmet in the middle of the field, and he's a big fucking guy, and he's got a little bit of burst to him when you need him to have it. Like he's somebody that should be used as that check down fucking safety net type guy, and Justin Fields just has not had that early on, or he hasn't taken advantage of that early on, and that's something that I hope Luke Getzey's really drove into him. But just so I can get through the rest of the injury report here just really quick, and then we should probably talk a little bit of defensive strategy too. Dave Montgomery, he is a guy who hasn't participated all week. They've been really mum on him as well. But I was listening to the game preview for the Bears and Giants a little bit earlier with Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, and Tom Thayer was focusing really strong on Khalil Herbert. He brought up Khalil Herbert having to have an impact game moving forward against the Giants quite a bit. And I'm not saying like he was saying that Dave Montgomery's for sure not going to play, but I feel like a guy with the connections at Hallis Hall that Tom Thayer has, if he's going on a broadcast talking about how much Khalil Herbert and how important he's going to have to be, it makes me assume that Dave Montgomery is going to be a no-go on Sunday, personally. And that's going to be big in the pass blocking game. I feel like, especially as a running back, that's where Khalil Herbert's really going to have to fucking step up, because that's not necessarily been a strength of his game. Treston Ebner, your boy, is going to be getting quite a bit of opportunities as well. I know it didn't count as a fumble last week, but that whatever happened with that football was a little ugly, and I just don't want to see that again. Protecting the football when you get your opportunity is going to be a number one priority as well, because with how our offense is played, we just need to be able to take advantage of any opportunities we have. But Robert Quinn missed Thursday with an illness. I'm assuming he's going to be fine. Cairo missed Thursday with a personal issue. I don't want to divulge into that because I don't know, but I'm assuming he's going to be fine as well. Roquan Smith has played on a limited basis all week with a quad injury. Assuming he didn't practice at all last week and then just came out and, dropped dong at Soldier Field, I'm assuming he's going to be fine. And Sterling Weatherford had an ankle injury, I believe, on Wednesday. He was limited participant on Thursday, so he looks like he's going to be going. Has been a pretty good special teams guy so far. And then just kind of going down some of the more important Giants guys. We talked about Sterling Shepard. Obviously, it looks like he's going to be out for an extended period of time, which is, you never wish injury on anybody, but that's a huge break for us because he has been absolutely gashing offense. He's been obviously the wide receiver one in Daboll's offense. Kadarius Toney, he's somebody who's been dealing with a lot of injury issues as well. I highly doubt he's going to end up playing on Sunday. Leonard Williams, that's kind of the big guy we were just talking about, potentially playing. I believe he's sitting at questionable as it stands right now, but he has not participated in practice all week with a knee injury. And the Giants are also dealing with two corners in a pretty weak corner room, with Justin Lane and Aaron Robinson also dealing with injuries this week, but it looks like they'll probably end up playing on Sunday. And that's your injury report. Sorry, guys. I really wanted to get through that.
You mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson, right?
Oh, yes. No, Wan'Dale Robinson as well is probably not going to play. I think actually they might have just designated him with something. No, all right. So he's sitting at questionable, and so is Kadarius Toney. Richie James is probably going to get a heavy dose. And I wouldn't be surprised if Darius Slayton ended up getting a pretty decent dose of the offense as well. Can't say anything about Kenny Galladay because
that's what I'm getting at, though. Like, all their guys that they like to throw the ball to are probably not going to play. So, like, are they going to make are they going to make amends with Kenny Galladay, because he's clearly the best player on their offense outside of Saquon Barkley that's going to be on the field now. So, skill player at least. So I don't know, man. That's a strange dynamic with Galladay in general, because I was okay with the money he, like, after coming off that season with Stafford, and I think he was getting like $16 million a year. I was like, man, we should have just done that and traded A-Rab. Yeah. So I liked him as a receiver. There seems to be a disconnect. We see we have one going on with Tevin Jenkins, realistically. So I don't know. I just think that's huge for the defense. And as we're getting into the defense with Jalen Johnson looking like he's going to be out again, it's a good break for the Bears, because I don't hate the Giants' weapons. I thought they had a pretty good receiving core. Not anything crazy over the top, but I thought they had more than enough guys that can get things done. They've been like that for a while. They have like 5 number 2s. They have no 3s, no 4s, but just like 5 2s, no 1s. So yeah, that's a lucky break for the Chicago Bears to have it look like no one's going to be playing wide receiver for the not the Cowboys, for the Giants.
Yeah, well, and I feel like a lot of that goes into just not being very well coached. And when you deal with young players, especially highly drafted players or highly paid players, you're going to always run into that ego, that's just impossible to miss. And if you don't have a head coach that's kind of demanding respect, and I'm not saying anything about Joe Judge, but if they don't respect you, man, they ain't going to fucking try hard to practice, and they are going to consider this a dead situation, and they're going to want to move on. Obviously, you look at like Kadarius Toney's situation last year. Like, I think it was like week 10, they were already talking about potential trades, and he had just gotten drafted. And then you look at Kenny Galladay, who just had a brutal year last year. But, from what I saw him do in Detroit, it's just really hard to put a lot of blame on him for that, just because of how bad the Giants offense was last year and how bad, I got to give Daniel Jones this credit. He's played a lot better this season because he was astronomically bad last year at throwing the football. Like, he's a mobile guy. He can move around, but like, he was not feeding his best players on offense, and it was very, very obvious. So, I'm glad you brought that up, Lucas, because that is a guy that you do kind of have to pay attention to. He's obviously like, like neck deep in Brian Daboll's fucking doghouse. I don't know what the hell he did to just sour him on whatever that is, or maybe he got, Daboll got some intel heading in that like, hey, this Galladay guy, he's not a player. You know what I mean? But there's something obviously going on there. But it's going to be interesting to see how often he gets used early and often. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's big. And then you're talking about the guy throwing the ball to him. Like while Daniel Jones does look improved, and Daniel Jones always was. He's a weird fucking guy to evaluate because
he's talented, but he has like all the like Eli derpiness without any of the clutch.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Actually, that's a pretty perfect description. I think we can click. No, because really, like his biggest problems, in my opinion, were turning the ball over, and there was a lot of, hey, this is a bad mistake, but just in terms of pocket presence, he was fucking awful, and he looks to be cleaned up a little bit in that aspect. And I don't think he's turned the ball over nearly at the clip he was in the past 3 seasons. But yeah, man, he's not that good. When you really think of Daniel Jones, you're not like, oh fuck, man, Daniel Jones is gonna rip us up. But he's the type of guy that can throw for 350. You know what I mean? So it's a hard thing to gauge, and it's one thing that they're gonna have to have a spy on him because he's sneaky athletic in terms of his legs. And you don't want to give up a 3rd and 17 because you get him in a bad position. And then fucking let him scramble for 17 because you're treating him like Patrick Mahomes, who has like he's not athletic. I'm fat as fuck, so I'm not saying that in comparison to me, but in comparison to athletic dual threat quarterbacks, like Mahomes isn't like, that's not his game really. But anytime they're throwing the fuck out of the ball, everyone's so committed to the receivers and going deep that I've seen him get like 4th and 20s or 3rd and 20s and shit like that with his legs. So, and I think Daniel Jones has that same capability. Luckily, he's not as good at throwing the ball, so you should be able to spy him on 3rd down plays.
Yeah, no, Patrick
And then
Mahomes
will just eat his ass.
Patrick Mahomes walks like a soccer mom, and nobody will never be able to convince me otherwise. Like he just has like this like certain waddle to him. It's ridiculous to watch. But Daniel Jones, I mean, you do really have to give him credit for how mobile he is because, dude, he went 9 for 79 against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday, and he has those games like that. He's kind of like,
and then he'll trip before the end zone. He'll rush for 80 yards, break, and then just trip before the end zone, and fucking they won't be able to score.
I felt so freaking bad for him when I watched that play because it's like, dude, this is like the Daniel Jones redemption play, and he just fucks it up like right at the end. And it's like
all threw a grenade at him,
and like all his teammates are coming up to him excited because obviously like he just got the huge game, but you could just see the like on his fucking face, and it's like, oh my god. It's terrible.
With all that being said, well, and he knew too that was going to be on prime time, like right away. It was like, fuck, dude.
Like, it's that Eli derpiness, man. It's that this guy looks incredible at times, and then other times it's like, wow, he just looks like he's never played a game of football in his fucking life.
Yeah, and that's why you can't look past him. Because as much as I don't think he's as high a caliber quarterback as Aaron Rodgers, and I think Davis Mills is a better player than him, even though Davis Mills kind of looks like he's going backwards a little bit. I do think he can get the job done for sure.
Yeah. No, honestly, the key really here is I can live with Daniel Jones running it a little bit on us as long as, like you said, being able to kind of have somebody as a spy, not necessarily fully committed to him on the play, but kind of really drive it in somebody's head like, hey, you have to pay attention to Daniel Jones, focus on your responsibility first, but make sure Daniel doesn't hit the corner or beat you over there, kind of follow him around the field, But honestly, dude, I feel like if the key to our defense flying on all cylinders and for guys like Eddie Jackson to be able to play loose and guys like Jaquan Brisker to play at their best, and even a guy like Kyler Gordon, who like I know we've dogged on him a little bit, but I feel like this is a good opportunity for him to have a really good game. I think the key to success is the front four getting pressure, man. That's what Dallas did very well, and you talked about it before we got on the show about how much they do blitz, and Dan Quinn's always been a blitzing guy. That's just kind of comes from the Seattle days, but it's really what they were doing very fucking well. Is you look at a guy like Dexter or DeMarcus Lawrence, dude. DeMarcus Lawrence had 6 tackles on Monday Night Football, which is why it's crazy that he wasn't Defensive Player of the Week. 6 tackles. 3 of them were sacks. 3 of them were tackles for loss. Like that is what the Giants are giving you here. And I'm not taking anything away from DeMarcus Lawrence, because when he's on, he's legitimately one of the best edge rushers in all of football, in my opinion, because I've seen some dominant play out of him over the years. But we have a guy like that. We have Robert Quinn. Like this would be the game where like Robert Quinn's he's had a good season so far, but he's kind of been like that guy hovering in the shadows. I feel like guys like Travis Gibson and Dominique Robinson have kind of overtaken like the splash plays as far as that type of thing. But like this is the Robert Quinn matchup. Like this is a situation where it doesn't matter what side of the defensive line he's playing on, he's going to have the matchup. They're going to have to really focus on him. Otherwise, everyone else is going to otherwise he's just going to eat him alive. But I mean, they were having a hard time with Dallas with that. And Dallas doesn't really have a great pass rusher opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence, man. They have I think it's Dexter Fowler, I believe, which is good.
Oh yeah,
good pass rusher, no doubt. But I think you look at what Robert Quinn, Travis Gibson, and Dominique Robinson, and even a little bit of Al-Quadin Muhammad do. Like I feel like you have a lot of fresh bodies on the field at all times on the edge, and the Bears are constantly getting pressure out there. I would love to see our team defensive pressures actually from our front four. And if you're getting that's what it was with the Lovie Smith defense. That's how it is with any 4-3 defense. If you can get pressure with your front four, everything else on defense is going to come together. And I feel like that's going to be the situation here if we can get to Daniel Jones early and often.
Well, Duke, I do think that is a great strategy. But even before that, and I know this question was directed towards you, but I'm going to answer it and make you very happy. Duke, oh, nope, just kidding me. Where did it go? Duke, do we see Jack Sanborn get in the game? I need it to happen for you, Wisconsin guy. I think it starts before the actual getting to Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones is someone that will hold the fuck out of the ball, and he will give up sacks, and our pass rush will get there. But we have to put them in a position. I always say your best defense is a good offense sometimes, especially for the way this defense is built, not being as good in the run as they are in the pass. I think scoring early and often is going to help for sure, but I think you're going to have to key in on Saquon Barkley, because that's going to be who they're trying to get in space, whether it's in the passing game or in the running game. They're going to feed him early and fucking often. Like he is their offense at this point. So I think we're going to see a lot more of our base 4-3 than we're used to seeing. I'm interested to compare the numbers of our base 4-3 in the first 3 weeks versus what we play in this week. And I think you're going to see Jack Sanborn get some snaps, because that's what he does well. He plays the run really well. So for I don't know, man. I think we see Sanborn, a lot of Sanborn sightings in the linebacker core, not just on special teams.
Well, and I think that's certainly possible too, because when you talked to Matt Eberflus last week, he talked about how good of a practice that Jack Sanborn had, but after he only played one defensive snap, it feels like no media members were trying to ask any questions about Jack Sanborn after that. And I think there is a pretty good potential, because we do see it with younger players, especially undrafted ones, is kind of getting them kind of acquainted with doing this with the first and second team on defense after not being able to really get a shot to do that early on. So this could have been like sort of a ramp up week to be like, yes, Joe Thomas is still going to get the majority of the snaps because he is a better pass defender in every right. But Jack Sanborn, this is a really good opportunity for him if we were to kind of mix it up with even like a 65-35 snap count to be able to get him more in that base defense and just kind of focus on stopping the run. He's a guy who is instinctual. He can do stuff in the passing game, but that's not where he's going to really make his impact at this early stage of his career. So no, that's a really good point.
I think he's just got a nose for the ball too, man. Like after what I've seen in preseason, and I know that you were fucking absolutely just huffing his farts for the entirety of the offseason, but after really, and I wasn't that impressed with him in training camp either. I was like, he's okay, but we didn't get to see that much team that day we were there in training camp. When you really saw him come into a game, like he just has a nose for the ball. He's just always in the right place, it seems like. So yeah, I think, if we're basing the amount of snap time you get off of practice due to Tevin Jenkins not having the greatest Wednesday, but a good Thursday and Friday, then if fucking Jack Sanborn has a great week of practice, I don't know. I just feel like that's someone that should get some more snaps. It just makes too much, especially if we're rotating everyone like it's no big fucking deal. Like, let's just rotate Jack Sanborn in there. It's a developmental year, right? Like, we're trying to see what we got. Our GM didn't fucking sign a player of significance.
Yeah, no.
No?
Ryan Poles the big fucking peanut brittle guy, like no doubt.
Oh yeah.
But
Cement mixer shit.
yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, no, it's a great point. And honestly, like I'm under the impression, obviously, because like I am that guy that just I have a fucking Jack Sanborn jersey, like, and I'm the only one not family that probably has one of those. Like, I am definitely a Sanborn guy, but I'm under the impression that if he gets enough snaps in a regular season game, like it's going to be hard to ever really take him out because you're going to start to realize like this guy's a player, because like you said, Lucas, dude, it's when the lights come on, it's when he gets game day. Like he's just playing football out there, man. And when you have the idea that you're just out there playing football and you're playing free, man, the sky is the fucking limit. Because that's what the best players in football do, dude. That's what, and I don't want to compare him to any of the best players in football, but like that's the mindset you have to be an effective, like good, long-standing football player is to go out there and just be like, I'm just playing football, because that's what Roquan's doing out there, man.
They always
He's
say it, play
just
fast.
playing football.
It's a big part of why fucking I want to give myself credit too, and we should clip last week because remember when I was saying like, hey, you go from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Not only do you have different responsibilities, but the way the defensive line is playing different. And Eberflus actually mentioned that in his post game presser or it might have been Monday. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact I said that last week. Not to toot my own horn. And then Eberflus straight up said, yeah, well, the defensive linemen are playing him differently. So just like it takes for everyone to get adjusted to a new scheme. Like we're seeing that, right? Like Roquan is now looks like he's adjusted. Let's hope he doesn't take a step back, and then I got to put my foot in my mouth. But right now, it looks like that's the biggest thing. You have to play fast. You have to be smart so you can play fast. You have to do your film work so you can play fast. So they always say. It's just the way it is.
That's a really good point, Lucas, because looking at it from a linebacker standpoint, you really are getting a different look from your defensive lineman
You're
compared to a
used to
3-4 to
two-gap
a 4-3
players, and
defense.
he said straight up, he was like in a 3-4. He's like, I've done the transition 3 times. He said in a 3-4, your player is playing more laterally, sideline to sideline. He's like, we want our linebackers in a 4-3 coming downhill. He had to get used to that. He had to get used to how defensive linemen in this scheme are going to split blocks or what blockers are going to take up. Like a two-gap scheme, that's why I said it last week. It's so much different playing two-gap than fucking one-gap. My freshman, not that it makes me a fucking professional, but my freshman year we were 4-3, and then we moved to a 3-4, and it's way different. Like 4-3, you're just trying to get up the fucking field. Like you're trying to take care of your gap and make sure you take care of that comeback lane. You're not really worried about hand fighting with offensive linemen as much. And in a 3-4, when you're playing a two-gap technique, your job is to engage with the offensive linemen and shed them and move to the play because you have that extra help. You have linebackers that are covering 4 gaps instead of 3. So it's just, I mean, like I fucking knew it, but a lot of people just hate Roquan Smith because he wanted to get paid the appropriate amount of money.
Well, because I mean, everybody
And
thinks
because
it's
Ryan
like,
Poles can't do any fucking wrong. He's the greatest ever, right? Like he's so incredible.
oh my gosh, yeah, no, I people know how I feel about Ryan Poles. I don't even need to fucking go any farther than that. He's not somebody I hate, but he's still on the list until Roquan Smith gets a contract extension because
Not
like
even that. Just more so, just like it's easy to fucking rip a team down. It's a lot harder to build it back up.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
let's before we crown him, let's see what kind of signing he makes next year.
Nobody needs to be crowned right now. Like even Matt Eberflus, like we fucking love this guy. Like honestly, as far as a guy who's only coached 3 games for the Chicago Bears, like I'm a Matt Eberflus guy already. But
Dude,
like
he's 5-1 as the head coach, including preseason.
even then, it's like I'm still stopping myself from crowning him anything or really like fucking 100% buying into being like fucking Matt Eberflus is the man. You know what I mean? Just because like you have to be that way because like we were all fooled with Matt Nagy. And that really that bugs me to this day because we all hit that point in 2018. We're like, holy shit, this is the offensive guy we've been looking for, dude. We've been waiting for this fucking guy. This is what we thought Mark Tressler was going to be.
Yeah.
This is what we thought Dick Duran was going to be. You know what I mean? Like this is it. It wasn't. And we had to pick up the pieces for fucking years. Me and Lucas kind of realized a little bit fucking sooner than a lot of other people, and we had to let people know, but they wanted to battle us every step of the way. But then they finally had to come to the realization. It's like, oh shit, we really did buy into a guy a little too early. We crowned him the fucking sausage king of Chicago, and he thought like he could do no fucking wrong, and it went straight to his head. And that's something I just don't want to ever do with a head coach ever again because of how badly that entire situation went.
And I like Eberflus as a head coach, but he still has to clean up the passing game. I know that's not his forte or his specialty, but this is his team, and we cannot throw the ball for more than 100 yards in a fucking game. So as much as I love the Flus and Eberflus, you gotta have a well balanced team. I can't live in 2006 again, dude. It's like time's a flat fucking circle. The Bears ran the ball for 260 yards and threw it for 97 and won 23 to fucking 20 because of a goddamn a late interception and the other team's fucking scoring zone. We didn't even have to drive at that point. Like that's like we are. Time is a flat fucking circle. We are stuck in a vortex right now. And I will not crown Matt Eberflus as much as I like him. I will not crown him until we are a competent fucking passing offense.
He does make a pretty good fucking pre-workout though. Like I would pound that shit for fucking days. Like I would wake up at 3 a.m, drink like fucking half a jar of that shit, and then do like 17 workouts throughout the course of my 10-hour day, like easily. But anyway, I guess that's kind of a good point to move on to. I also think it's also an important point to bring up that Lovie Smith got a lot of blame when we couldn't pass the football as well. So this fact that it's a defensive coach, we can't blame him for the offense. Is just
from the same
flat ears because you're
He's
the head
from the
coach,
same
man.
coaching tree. Like that does give me some reservations. Like from the same coaching tree, similar philosophies. It makes me worry a little bit. That's all I'll say.
It makes you worry, but at the same time, being from that coaching tree, it's got to get you a little juiced up as well.
I know we're going to be in games, but I just want to be able to fucking win games because of my quarterback one time in my goddamn life.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like we kind of covered quite a bit with how Justin Fields can really have a coming out party against the Giants. Like this is the game for him to figure it out and kind of get us rolling on offense, because as frustrated as me and you have gotten, Lucas, the one common theme that we keep coming to is like, dude, there's no way this can keep going this long. There's like something has to give. Like even if like Justin isn't the guy, like he still has enough talent to not be this fucking bad. You know what I mean? Like something has to give because we've seen it. It's not like he hasn't done it in the NFL. We've seen it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like even a game of 210 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, that's a fucking vast improvement. Like we will take anything at this point, homie.
We
so
can
just
win
let
a
it
lot
rip.
of games with that stat line.
Like, just give me something, bro. Give me a fucking crumb so I can have a little bit of hope left.
All right. Well, let's roll in because we are rolling a little bit long. It's nice to have you keep us till the end, Lucas. Mr. Hollywood running around on us.
I literally take my girlfriend to work, and you just talk too long to close us out.
Yeah, I know. It's fine.
You're a fat idiot.
Yeah. All right. So, bold prediction. What do you got?
Ooh, put me on the spot for a bold prediction right away. Okay. Bold prediction. I think that the Chicago Bears have a combined 7 sacks in this game tomorrow.
That sounds like a prop bet.
They don't allow that. They don't allow that level of fucking perverse betting, but I would bet it if I could, like an alternate team sack line for sure.
No, that's beautiful. I really like that because like you see what Dallas did and you see the pressure that we've gotten this year. I don't think it's insane to think that we can put up those type of numbers against a bad enough offensive line.
As long as we put them in a position where they have to throw. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. My bold prediction. I'm going to say Kyler Gordon gets his first career interception this week.
Ooh, that's ballsy.
I'm going to give it to him. I think he had that play against Houston where he fucking read that screen nicely. Like, I love that play right there is what you drafted him for. Like, those are the types of fucking jumping on a route, being able to read the quarterback's eyes, being able to see the ball out of his hand. Like, if he catches that, that's a pick six easy. I just think he's been getting dragged by every wide receiver he's gone against. Obviously, the stats don't lie. He's given up more yards as a corner than any other corner in football. Like, it's going to get to the point where people are starting to kind of hound him. But, like, I think, like, we're going to start seeing that talent. Like, we're going to start seeing that Prince level magic where he fucking just is, like, hovering in the air to the end zone at a certain point. So I think he gets his first career interception this week off of boy Danny Dimes.
If that bold prediction comes true, I'm probably going to send you the classic red radio flyer wagon for you to carry your nuts around in because that's bold.
I had to think of something good, man. I wanted to say another Eddie Jackson interception because, like, fucking hell, dude. He's been that guy. And I feel like every time I've called one now, he's gotten it. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I've dogged Kyler Gordon probably just as much as anybody else. Like Lucas, me and you were going at him pretty good in the fucking group chat the other day. Like,
He's
but
having a rough go at it, man. He
he
is
is.
like,
But I mean, that's part of getting your licks in the NFL. I will
it's
still
also
say
I'll yeah, no, I want to like have a you got to think too. Other than last week, they've he's across from Jalen Johnson. It's pretty known at this point that quarterbacks don't like throwing at him, so they're going to throw at Kyler a lot more than they would at a normal rookie receiver or rookie corner.
yeah. And that's almost always as they kind of run their playbook or their game plan for the week, the first read's going to probably be against Kyler Gordon. So it's not going to be one of those where like quarterback's going to scan, fucking kind of struggle to throw a ball because he's getting hit or something like that because he's waiting too long to throw a ball towards Kyler Gordon. Kyler's not getting many balls fluttering in the air. They're pretty clean fucking 3-step boom kind of shots, you know what I mean? Or like fucking being
Because
able
the
to
over
hit
the
a guy
middle
in
shit's a
stride.
lot easier to hit. Yeah, man, it's a lot more
Yeah.
like it's all timing routes that are killing him.
Yeah, well, that's because like they're game planning against him, and that's what smart offensive coordinators do, man. They take advantage of the matchup, and that's the obvious matchup you have to take right now, especially with him playing in the slot. But yeah, no, dude, I think honestly, like I understand like how much he struggled, but like I still feel like teams would rather target a lower drafted cornerback, like say like a Kendall Vildor compared to like a Kyler Gordon, like as it stands, you know what I mean? Just because of the idea of the fucking talent, because we see rookies kind of pop off out of nowhere, and even a guy like Trevon Diggs, who like me, Lucas, we've actually had quite a few talks about him about like what the hell he is, but like he's a guy who gives up a lot of yards, but he turns that freaking ball over, and if it hits a point where Kyler Gordon starts turning into that like yeah, he's going to give up some plays, but he turns the ball over consistently. Like that's a nice little weapon to have opposite of a guy like Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very optimistic way of looking at it. I think Trayvon Diggs works out really well is because the Cowboys were putting up a fuck ton of points too. So you can give up a long touchdown as long as you get the ball back for your offense once or twice. But I digress. This is not a Trayvon Diggs podcast. I do think that Brian Daboll has like just an absurd amount of fucking let's just say a chopped cheese. That's a New York thing. I didn't want to be cheesy and say New York slice, but he's got a chopped cheese and he is breathing extra fucking heavy right now, backtracking on film, watching Kyler Gordon. So you better believe they're gonna fucking come at him again. They're gonna keep coming at him until he starts making plays that they're gonna be like, all right, this isn't a good idea anymore.
Yeah, I really hope that Daniel Jones will be the guy that kind of just like pots the cherry. You know what I mean? Because like in all honesty, our secondary outside of our safeties and Jalen Johnson just it hasn't been good. But anyway, I digress. Score predictions. What do you got?
Bears are going to put up 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, 21. They're going to have 30 points on the nose. And the Giants are going to have 17. No, that goes under. They're going to have 20. They're going to have 20.
I freaking hate. I hate how close our predictions are every single freaking week. Like, because we're always off by like a field goal. Because my thought was 27-17. Like, dude, it's every week. It's not even like
that's an under though. I had to be I don't know. I mean, we talk about what the strategy is going to be for a fucking hour, so maybe that's leaning into our score prediction. I don't think about the score prediction before you ask it, to be honest.
I don't really think about it up until probably like the last like quarter of the show, and then I'm starting to kind of formulate it because like I want to see, because it's like me and Lucas are always so freaking close. Is this going to happen again? And then here we are. But yeah, whatever. 27-17. It's funny because we were talking about how like that over is a little appealing because like the Bears and the Texans put up fucking 43.
Wait, it's 30. It's 38 and a half. No, we're good then. No, yeah I want 30-17.
Yeah, so I'm 27-17. I think the Bears get stingy. I think obviously the Giants are going to hit the point where they do score some points because I think Saquon Barkley's still going to have a respectable day personally. Like, and that's not just because he's on my fantasy team. It's because he's legitimately looks like his former self, which is one of the best running backs in football. That's something we're gonna have to deal with.
Second bold prediction: Saquon Barkley is held to less than 100 all-purpose yards.
Okay. All right. I'll hold you that. I'll hold you that one because I've been watching him in fantasy this year because
he's been great.
He's been fantastic. And I think with even what he just did against Dallas, I think we're gonna kind of have our hands full. But that's why Jeff Joniak was about Justin Jones on the fucking preview game. And honestly, like he was talking about it, and he's a guy as a 3-tech who's not necessarily getting a whole ton of love, but like 8 tackles so far for a 3-tech is not that bad.
I'd like to see him do more. I would like to see a healthy Larry Ogunjobi, to be honest. I was super fucking pumped up about that. But
I would have loved to see Kyrus Tonga in a 3-tech, but I digress as well.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, I think that's a good spot to close this out. We've already beaten our meat a little bit too long, but anyway, yeah, so 30-17 is Lucas's prediction. Mine's 27-17. Obviously the Giants are going to score 17 points. But anyway, this has been Barely There. You can follow us at Barely There Pod on Twitter. You can also check out our link tree on there. You can find us on any podcasting platform. We've got it set up to like literally if whatever you listen to, we're probably on it at this point. Be sure to subscribe on the YouTube. We've actually been getting quite a bit of traffic over on YouTube lately. Our plays over there have been pretty good. Our plays on the live stream have been pretty good as well. So that goes out to you guys as well. Be sure to always just jump in. You know, if you've never commented on the show or like you think that me and Lucas would like just like destroy you for no reason, like we won't. Trust me, we love the banter. Like we appreciate we've gotten some of the best content and some of the best questions from people we've never talked to in our lives before this show. So
and make sure you're on YouTube too, because I actually went back and looked at a couple like I forgot what episode, but I went and scrolled through one of the episodes to hear one of the points that you were making actually. And I saw someone commenting on Twitter and it was like, fuck, we don't see those. So make sure you comment on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Twitter, but for like the last like what is it, like year and a half? Because I feel like
something with Stream East. Yeah, they must have a beef.
Yeah, there's some sort of issue there. So if you are commenting on Twitter, like we appreciate that, but we're not getting any of it. You know what I mean? And if we do see it, it's going to be way after the fact. So go on YouTube. This isn't some sort of weird marketing strategy. Just, subscribe over there. They'll alert you to when we go live and you can join the show. But yeah, I think that's a good time to close this out. Be sure to pound your Eberflus Sunday morning. We are going to hopefully win a game against the New York Giants and keep on rolling with this train moving forward. Not
3-1 is football. Yeah, 3-1. Now you're talking like, hey, dude, I remember I'm not comparing this team to the 2018 team because there was a huge influx of talent in 2018. But I do remember when the Bears won their, what was it? They won like 3-1 after the first quarter, and everyone was like, oh, the Bears are eventually going to fall off. And they just kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. And eventually it was like, oh, the division, no one has a shot to even come close to us. So numbers are a real thing. Math's a real thing. So you go 3-1, you're heavily increasing your chances to get that last wild card spot.
No doubt. I think the biggest game that kind of put everyone on notice for the 2018 Bears, and honestly, Justin Fields needs this game something fierce, and it was Mitch's game against Tampa. That was the game. That was the game where everyone was like, oh, dude.
Well, because at that time, too, Tampa was the number one offense, and we were the number one defense. So we were like, okay, number one offense versus number one defense. Let's see who comes out on top. And we literally beat our meat off their faces until there was just fucking mushroom tattoos all over it.
And listen, man, I'm telling you, like, if Justin Fields has that game, everyone's back in on him because
we put out the Fitz magic.
Yes, like, and that's just that would be like the ultimate type of move. I'm not saying it would like for it to happen this week, but like if you want this team to be taken seriously, that's what needs to happen because the defense is showing that's respectable enough. We can run the football. The only thing that's like in fucking 1940 right now is our passing game. And man, I'm telling you, if we get one of those games, even if it's like fucking 4 touchdowns on like 22 of 25, like it's like a hey, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like we need that from Justin Fields. But anyway, we're trying to close out. We keep making all these freaking points. We will see you guys next Monday, hopefully celebrating Chicago Bears win. But until then, bear down.
Bear down.